Hi there, welcome. Um, I'm Hannah, and I am just going to give everybody a couple of moments to join because we're a minute before starting, and I think we'll give it until like 2 minutes after starting before we continue with today's webinar. So yeah, literally just going to give it a couple of minutes. But welcome everybody that has joined so far, and yeah, this session should probably take about 30 minutes, I think. And yes, lovely. Yeah, I might as well mention now, and I will probably repeat it in 2 minutes, but we are getting the messages in on the chat box from people attending. So feel free to add in any questions as we are going through the presentation or any questions that you have already coming into the session for myself and Andrew, because we will probably not read them during the presentation, but we will certainly get to them at the end. We should have about 10 minutes at the end to answer anything anybody is wondering about the system or about Andrew's properties or how he uses the system. But yeah, looks like it is working because we have a couple of messages in there already. But yeah, we will be answering them verbally instead of writing down the answers. And then also any questions that we can't get to or that we don't answer in this session, we will definitely get back to you via email. So don't worry about that, and definitely feel free to add anything in because we will certainly see it, receive it, and respond to it. It just, if it's not today during the session, it will certainly be in an email format following the session. So yeah, we have a lot of people joining now, which is super. I probably just literally one more minute once it hits 2 minutes past 3 p.m., which is the time zone that Andrew and I are on. But welcome to everyone coming from other times. Hopefully this was working out for most people. It's really hard to figure out a time that's going to be accommodating for everyone, but seems okay. I think we're safe to go, maybe. And also, this session will be recorded. So, hello to everyone that's getting this recording. And yeah, I guess we'll start where who is here today. So, Andrew, we have here, who is the CEO and founder of Homely. And then I have obviously myself. I'm on the sales team in Minut. So, Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself for a moment?
Yeah, hello guys, everyone listening and watching. So my name is Andrew Ozigi from Homely. I'm the founder of Homely. Homely is a service accommodation provider. We're an apart hotel brand, and I'll probably do a bit of an introduction in more detail later on.
Certainly. Thank you, Andrew. And yeah, just as Andrew has said, I'm going to go through a minute as if, basically, as if somebody that doesn't know what Minute is, I'm going to introduce all the features, but then you will hear more from Andrew after I've given an introduction to Minute itself. So yeah, I'm on the sales team. My name's Hannah. I've been with Minute for 4 years now, and based out of the London office. Um, the Minute device basically is a device for your short-term rental that lets you know if your guests are having a party, which is one of the main reasons people would come and use Minute. But we are building on the features that Minute does provide all the time, including finding out if the AC or heating is on, from finding out the temperature in the homes as well. You can figure all of that out with Minute. And also, if there is a motion detector on the Minute device that actually picks up body temperature in the properties so that you can see that guests have checked in or even when they've checked out or when cleaning staff come and go, because it can actually tell you if the home is occupied or not through the body temperature emitted from the room. So as well as that, the noise monitoring is the obvious feature for the party prevention. It is done by picking up the amount of decibels in the environment. So it cannot listen in or hear anything specifically. It can only hear the amount of noise being created in decibels. So yeah, you can, and inside the app, when you do receive your minutes and you do go into setting your thresholds, there is levels and recommendations for each noise level, so you don't need to know anything about decibels to figure this out either. It's all very easy to set up. Occupancy monitoring then is another really cool and quite new feature, meaning that it can pick up the amount of Bluetooth available devices in the home. So this isn't a person counter by any means, because that wouldn't be accurate, because somebody could have multiple devices with them, or they could have one, but it does pick up on iPhones, Apple Watches, AirPods, all these things emit a Bluetooth signal, and then you can really get an idea of basically if extra people are arriving is the best way to use the occupancy monitoring, because when people have checked in, you can see how many devices they actually bring and that initial check-in, and then you can tell if there's more people arriving for a party or for whatever else, because the extra devices will arrive. Temperature, we've already kind of touched on that one, but you can tell the temperature in the environment with Minute. It can also detect tampering, so the device will send you a notification if it is tampered with in any way or taken off of its magnetic plate, which is how it is installed. Also, the device can be placed outdoor, so it has outdoor mode, but this is the same device that goes inside and outside. There's no two different devices. There's only 1 Minute, and it is the newest generation of the device, and it can go outside and inside. And it can also detect cigarette smoke now as well, which is obviously can be a very tedious issue inside a short-term rental. If your new guests arrive and there's been smoking, it can affect reviews and even somebody wanting to stay there. So yes, you can detect cigarette smoke with Minute now in your short-term rental as well. So we also have been putting a big emphasis on the integrations that we're releasing at Minute. So through an integration with your PMS system, your property management system, you're able to have all of the notifications to your guests automated. So if there's noise, if there's cigarette smoke, if there's over occupancy, anything at all, you can send these notifications directly to your guest through a SMS, which Minute pays for, or through a phone call, which is like a bot call. So it'll call out the message that you want to deliver to the guest, from your brand, from your property management company, and delivering the message that you want them to hear at that point in time. So if they've been loud for 10 minutes, if they've been loud for 20 minutes, how to let them know that and de-escalate it, basically. So we have all of the property management systems listed on this slide, and also we have tons more coming all the time. There's a lot of property management systems on the market, so we do have a long list of integrations that we are waiting to release. And also, if you don't see your property management system here, please let us know what you're using, because we're always interested to know what our customers are using and how we can maybe look into integrating with more of the necessary property management systems, of course. So we also have an integration with Zapier and an open API access, which can help build on other solutions. People have gotten very creative with how they use these types of integrations, and we're also integrating with many different smart locks. So to make like contactless check-ins even easier, we can automatically share the lock code with your guests, which is how the integration works, and it makes everything so seamless, and hopefully making all of your business operations more simple and with less maybe even staff members or less things being on separate platforms, basically. So without any further ado, if anyone has any questions, of course, of anything I said, please pop them in the box. We'll get to it. But now would love to give it over to Andrew and let us know how he uses Minute in his own business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much, Hannah. So I think as I said earlier, so I'm CEO for Homely, where we're actually an award-winning boutique apart hotel brand. We provide like we try and provide a homely experience to our guests and make sure our guests feel at home. Hence the name. So myself, my name is Andrew. My background is more of the tech side of things. So I have a very solid background in tech. I do a lot of work for consultancies, for end clients. I've worked for companies like Deloitte, Replies, Cyber. Worked across the globe. To be honest, working on large scale IT projects. So pretty much doing and because I worked for a lot of consultancies, I'm pretty much the guy that consultancies hire to represent them at the clients. I've done a lot of work for the likes of M&S, Waitrose. I mean, the list goes on. But then I've put all of that aside to work on Homely and use the same background and tech experience to build the business. I mean, Homely, we're quite a we consider ourselves as a very responsible and professional operator. We take safety and security quite personally, and which is why we use Minut. In terms of stats, I mean, we've been around since about 2016. We're a seven-figure business. We do very high occupancy. We've got very good occupancy rate, at least 80%, plus or minus. And we've probably had tens of thousands of guests pass through our doors. And I think it's based on that number, or based on the number of people passing through. I think it's quite important to make sure you have that safety and security is something that you factor into consideration. One of our values is actually innovation, and that's one of the main reasons why we've chosen Minut. So innovation is quite key, something that we have inbuilt into our tech stack, and as part of that innovation, use of sensors is quite key, and that's why we've decided to choose Minut. So in terms of Minut and the sensors, so we've got like an overarching tech stack. Tech stack is pretty much how the different components of the technology that you use to run your operations. And now we're being an apart hotel provider. We have several units, and most of our units are within entire buildings. So that means we need to be able to manage multiple buildings, not just a single unit. So when we had single units, it was a lot easier. But the more you take on as an operator, then the more complex it gets, and that's when it becomes quite important to be able to manage your operations at scale. Because Minut is a key part of our tech stack, we make sure that every new apartment that we take on has a Minut sensor installed. So every single one, right from the existing ones as well as any ones we're going to take on, Minut is a part of that setup. Now, in terms of innovation, one of the reasons why we also like Minut was the evolution. They are constantly evolving, and they're constantly changing and making improvements to their product. I think there's a new generation out which we're actually yet to upgrade, but we're still on the old one. However, even the old one provides quite a lot of benefits, and where we can't wait to see some of the new features that Hannah described earlier on. So it's that peace of mind that it gives you, and knowing that you're with a provider, with a sensor provider that is very innovative and constantly evolving and changing, and those are some of the reasons why we've chosen Minut. So it does fit into our strategy, and it's a good product. Now, how we actually use it, or how it adds value to us, now as an operator, we operational efficiency is quite important. Because you can get involved in quite a lot of manual processes and manual tasks, so it's quite important to make sure things are as automated as possible and as lean and efficient as possible. So those are some of the reasons why we use Minut to keep that process simple. So rather than having it's kind of like our ears on the ground. So it tells us what is happening. So we have visibility of what's going on. We can respond, and because of the automation that is inbuilt, it enables us to do that without having to manually get involved. Another key part is that control. It's a noise control part of it, which is one of the main popular reasons why most people go onto Minut, to mainly around parties. I mean, for our side, I mean, we whenever we have we call them noise incidents. It doesn't necessarily, it's not always a party, but you can't just be people playing music really, really loud. But either way, you want to be responsible, you want to be professional, you don't want to piss off your neighbors or your other guests in the same building. So it's important to know that. And if you had and if you didn't have any sensors in there, you have no idea what's going on. And it's quite important to know what's happening without actually being physically present. And that's the benefit that Minute gives us at Homely. So without having to have, so for example, I mean, legally you can't have cameras inside the apartment. So you need to know, if you want to know what's happening, if you want to be able to be on top of things, then it's important to have to do that in like a legally compliant manner. So in a GDPR compliant manner. So Minute installed in there ensures that you're not breaching any privacy laws, and it's able to give you visibility of what's going on without having to be physically present. So that's one of the reasons why we like Minute. In terms of data insights, it gives us lots of information around the sensor information, gives us indications of temperature, what's happening inside, occupancy levels. I think Hannah mentioned the Bluetooth devices, so it gives you an indication of how many, roughly how many people are in the apartment. I think there's normally like a guide around how many people, how many Bluetooth devices a person can carry. It can be anything from a watch to a mobile phone or mobile device. So when you have all these devices together in the same place, when you have too many devices, you can set a threshold, and that threshold tells you there's quite a big gathering. So even though you have a single person checking in, later on, lots of people turning up, then at least it gives you an indication of what's happening. So that we find it quite useful. I think in general, the whole sort of safety and security in terms of intrusion as well. So trying to I think it has a feature to you can actually trigger an alarm where if you have an unidentified intrusion, you have the opportunity to do that. So I think an example is if you had a guest, if you were expecting someone to be able to check into one of your apartments and there was nobody there, or you're not expecting anybody to actually turn up, if there was any motion internally, then that is an unidentified intrusion, and I think you want to be checking your alarms and taking that seriously. So, I mean, it brings so much to the table for us. Integration wise, we also find it quite seamless because we connect via one of the PMSs that was shown on the list. It has like a native integration to that PMS, and it's able to retrieve all the key information required. So the information that is needed to be able to contact a guest is all included within there. So your I think I believe the way Minute works is that it's able to then reach out to a guest that is supposed to be within the apartment, a specific apartment at a specific time period within a specific date range. And it's able to send out an automated SMS, depending on whatever you wish, to that guest by putting in the contact details that you already have. It sends a message to that guest to tell them to keep the noise down or whatever message you decide to type in. So I think having that integration makes it a lot more seamless. You don't need to worry about it. So it's absolutely amazing. In terms of a few practical examples of what we of how we actually use it. So one, I think in terms of the noise handling, I think I'll give a scenario. I think I was on holiday recently, and we received received an alert to say the noise had gone beyond the threshold that we set. You can set daytime thresholds or you can set nighttime thresholds. And now most of the noise incidents you probably get are likely to be at night, which is when those noise incidents typically happen. When that happens, the first threshold we set, an automatic message goes out to the guest to say, keep the noise down. It's a bit softer. We have another one that goes out in another 10 minutes that we set. That one has a little bit more firm tone to it. And then you can set an automated call as well to go out. So when that happened, the guests, I think from what we found out, most of the time, probably about 90% within the first 10-minute message, the noise level goes down. So for us, it works, and it just means we don't have to wake up in the middle of the night calling guests or trying to find out what's going on. Minute just automatically handles it. I think the only time we then manually or physically get involved is when it's gone beyond the multiple thresholds and there's still no response, and that's when a responder then is to pick up the phone or to take action. So I think for us, it's a really good part of our overall IoT strategy and our tech stack, and it's something we definitely strongly recommend, and we will continue to use. I think that's pretty much an overview of how we use Minute. I mean, there's so many examples. I know actually one example that I think I could think of is from a maintenance perspective, where we've had issues with heating. We thought we were able to identify that the threshold had gone below 15 degrees, which is what we set. We were able to get somebody out to have a look, our property management team to have a look, and realize the heating actually broken down. So we were able to get in there, fix it, resolve an issue, even before the guests, before we responded to complaint. I mean, that's just one of an example of many examples of the data insights that you get from it. I think we had another situation once where we had a fault in the communal fire alarm system. All of our Minute points in that building started to go off one after the other, which means they were all detected noise for over that threshold period. That made us realize something is going wrong. It's not a guest throwing a party. Something bigger must have gone wrong, and we were able to respond to it and get it resolved. So it's I mean, there's so many use cases and so many scenarios that you can probably think of how it can be beneficial. But I think for us, the key thing is that as part of our strategy, is being able to know what's going on in the apartment while you're not physically there, because you're not going to be physically there all the time. And I think that's one of the reasons why we like the use of a sensor, or in this case, Minute, is quite key for us. So it helps us to be professional. It helps us to be good neighbors, and we're able to also resolve issues in a timely manner and in an automated manner, which is where one of the key parts. It seamlessly integrates with everything else, and it fits nicely with our strategy. I think that's pretty much it. There's quite a few questions popping up, so maybe we should jump into those and see how we can answer them.
Certainly is. Thank you so much, though, Andrew. That was really, really good insights. And as you said correctly, there is a lot of questions here. So I will just, I think there could be a lot for you.
Okay.
There is one here. How long does the Minute battery last, and how do you manage keeping everything charged at scale? So I think I'll let you maybe answer that one from your point of view.
Yeah, I think we found we actually haven't tested one to see when it actually dies, but it's definitely several months. And what we do to be able to manage it, I think it takes about a few hours to get it fully charged. And once it gets fully charged, it can last you months. So, and what we do is we have a property management team that add it as part of our monthly checks. So anytime we do our monthly routine checks, we always make sure we get it charged. I mean, you can. It's something that can be done by maybe your cleaners, for example, but we use our property management team to help us to get everything fully charged.
Nice. Yeah, that's interesting that you kind of keep them topped up rather than letting them get to the fatal level. But I think if you ask our product team, the average is about a year at the moment. And
okay. Wow.
Yeah, we're always trying. That's one of the biggest focuses with even new features being released is privacy is the first focus at all times. And then the second focus basically is to keep and retain that battery level really, really good, because we don't want any of the new features to curtail the amount of battery that we can provide. So over a year, or the year mark, is the average at the moment. It obviously depends if it's triggered more often, or if you have the alarm on or something that could make it drain quicker. But if it's in a dormant state for a long time, it can go even way past that. So the average is about 12 months at the moment. But I like your strategy of keeping it topped up, especially at scale, which is obviously what today's conversation is about. So that's really good insight. And then what happens if a cheeky guest knows that it's a Minute and tries to switch it off, or maybe disconnect the Wi-Fi? Do you want to take that?
Yeah,
Will
I think
take
I'll
it?
take that on. I think, yeah, I mean, we get it all the time, to be honest. yeah, once you, the good thing is that there's a feature on Minute where we get an alert when it's been dismounted, so we know someone's actually trying to take it off. So we normally would just get in touch with the guests to say to not to tamper with those devices and to transfer them back. Same thing with, in fact, with Wi-Fi, what we actually do actually for that purpose. So we take off our Minute points off the network that the guests use, so they can't tamper with it. So we have a separate network that we connect all of our text stack onto. So I think I mentioned IoT earlier on. We've got our all of our things like our doors, for example. So we're completely keyless. We use our so all of our keyless door systems are connected to a separate network. Our Minute points, any sort of tech devices or IoT hubs that we have in our buildings or in our apartments are on a separate network, so they don't get tampered with. But yeah, I would not rule that out. You will get guests that will try out.
No, that's interesting. The only other thing I would add there is that, there is a tamper detection, which you've mentioned, which is for this exact reason. And then in relation to the Wi-Fi, if the Wi-Fi just goes down or there's like a power cut or something like that, there is a certain amount of time that the environmental data will continue to be recorded, and then when it does come back online, you'll still be able to see what happened in that time. It's a certain amount of time. You could probably find out more on the support pages, but yeah, I think there's a certain amount of room for the motion data, for the noise data, these types of things, if anything is ever offline for a certain amount of time, just as a side note there. And then what do we have next? Okay. Is it hard to manage all these devices across all apartments? Is it hard to manage, let's say, 40 plus Minute devices?
Yeah, I think that's similar to one of your previous questions, where yeah, you need depending on at scale, you will need to put a process around it so that you have and whether that's your property management team or your cleaning team or housekeeping teams, you will need a process around it to make sure they're being topped up.
Then how do you effectively explain to the guests that Minute isn't actually recording any conversation? I don't know if you want to take that one, or if I would take it.
Yeah, I think we definitely have had this one. I think some guests know what it is. Some guests don't. Some guests think it's an Alexa and they tamper with it. It's I think what we do is we try and explain to them that there isn't an actual recording. So therefore, there's no data being recorded. In fact, we actually tell them in advance. So we put in as part of our terms and conditions in terms of whether there's any recording devices inside. So we actually make it quite clear up front. They don't necessarily know where exactly it is, but we do let them know.
Yeah, that's good. And that's also what we recommend from like a point of view of like, an initial conversation with a property manager, because it does work twofolds if you do inform them of the device, because that way, when there's an alert, they'll know how it's been communicated to them, of course. And then also, if they see in the listing information that this listing contains a noise monitor, they're a lot less likely to book it for some type of party as well. So you're going to get more desirable bookings, hopefully, as well. And yeah, I've already said at the start of this, but Minute can't record or listen to anything. It's the amount of decibels that it can actually just monitor. So yeah, it's decibels only. But yeah, that's what we would put into the communication. And if you want some examples of what to write in your listing information, we have that on our website that we would recommend, or you can make your own kind of spin on it. And then there is a question here from Josh. Hi, Josh. Is it possible to update the Wi-Fi information for a device remotely, e.g. a new Wi-Fi router is installed? The answer is no. So if the Wi-Fi password changes on the router, or if anything like that changes, it no longer communicates to the back end. So that has to be like reconnected in person. To answer that question. And then I know we're running out of time. So next question, okay, we've got that one actually. Is it hard to manage all 40 plus? We answered that one. Then we've got a question here from Alyssa. I really like how Andrew talks about IoT strategy and the whole tech stack setup. How can we get more details about this?
Okay, yeah, I think that one. Okay, I think that one. I think feel free to reach out to share it because we do. I think I use a lot of my my background in tech to do what we do for Homely for myself. I mean, I'm actually going to be speaking about that in September. There's another event happening in September. I think it's Skill Rentals in on the 26th and 27th, and I'll be speaking more about tech and what we do and overall just tech architecture and IoT strategy. So I think that will I think I'll be able to share some more information on that. But I think I'm probably also going to post stuff on socials. So keep an eye out on. If you follow, I'll definitely post stuff out that will be useful.
Nice. Okay, super. And then we've got two comments from Josh here to mention. So, something useful to mention. This is from Josh. Minute provides proof that can be shared with OTAs in order to hold the guests accountable. E.g., guest reservations can be cancelled by the OTA as there is evidence they've broken rules and ignore requests. Okay, thank you, Josh. I know Josh is also a property manager that uses Minute. So, and he also has another comment. Another major benefit is when meeting new property owners, sharing the details about the device and our strategy to avoid bad guests is one of the highest priorities of our clients. Yeah, I have to agree with that. When I'm speaking to new property managers, they often want to use Minute as a unique selling point to win more business, to win more homes from owners, to get onto the property management portfolio. So that's really good points from Josh. And we're overtime, so I don't know. Usually we can't go too far over. People have, booked out just this time, so I don't want to go over any more than needed. Hopefully, people have found this useful. I've certainly enjoyed hearing Andrew's point of view. And if there's any other questions, don't hesitate to email us with them because we'll be more than happy to get back to you at a later stage if you think of something after this conversation. Also, if anybody wants to book a demonstration with us to find out about Minute for their own portfolios, of course, we would be happy to speak to you about that. But yeah, I think thank you from the comments that are coming in saying thank you. And Andrew, anything you'd like to finish on?
Yeah, I think.
Well, otherwise, we'll see you at Scale Rentals.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, see your Skill Rentals. I think from our side, yeah, it's a highly recommended product. We love it. It's part of our tech stack, and yeah, we'll continue to use it and roll it out to new properties we take on.
Nice one. Okay, super duper. Thank you very much again, Andrew. I certainly enjoyed everything that you mentioned and your insights to how you use the product. And from your point of view, is the strongest um, to be as an example to other property managers. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences. And yeah, I guess we'll leave it there.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Thanks. Bye bye.
you.
Bye bye.